Babylon 5 fans. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Point of No Return, the Babylon 5 Retrospective. This week on the program, we're looking at episode 20, And the Rock Cried Out, No Hiding Place. That's the name of the episode. But before we get into it, before we bring in the panelists and all that jazz, let me welcome my co-host, the man who has spent much time on the dusty Narn homeworld. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening. All right. Anything you got, Cam, before we get started? I think maybe we should say hello to everyone in the chat.
Sure.
Yeah. Umbros is in the chat. Hey, he needs to hide. Don't hide by the rock. There's no hiding places there. And of course, Dave sends his greeting from the Narn delegation. Thanks, Dave. We appreciate you. And Jeanette is in the chat. Hello, Jeanette. Good to see you. And that's it. Everybody else is are on the show or something, so I don't highlight those guys. But anyway, the only other thing I like to mention is that, and I think probably some of the guys will mention at the end. I'm going to start pushing the Rumble a little bit because people are having problems with YouTube. We're going to focus on Rumble. I mean, we won't change anything here. We'll keep going on. If we make a permanent switch, we'll let everyone know. But I do want to push the Rumble channel a little bit, get it going a little bit. I've got 16 subscribers on the channel. So if you would, if you're watching the show, if you can go over to Rumble and subscribe, it's rumble.com and C/Sci-Fi Snob is the channel. I'd appreciate it. And, we're keeping it there just in case. We already mirror everything there. But just in case, we find ourselves empty, destroyed, disappearing one of these days, we'll have a backup. So, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Okay. Cam, you got anything?
You forgot Madman was in the chat.
Oh, Madman is in the chat. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes, Madman is in the chat too, of course. My apologies. 10 lashings with a wet noodle for that. I blame myself. All right. Okay. Thanks, Cam. See, Cam's always covering. Watch me. All right. So let's get ready. Let's bring everybody in, and we'll get on with the show. First of all, we've got Outpost Nerd. Welcome, Outpost.
What's up?
And we have our man from across the pond, Dean.
I hear there's wet noodles. I want my wet noodle.
Yes.
That's pretty much what British cuisine is.
I don't think we should put that. A lot of ways we can take that. And, of course, our regular co-panelist, Death Angel Shadow. There we go. There he is. All right. Good.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hello. All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, do you guys have anything?
Spaghetti? Somebody's cooking spaghetti?
We get
No,
started.
the lashings with wet noodles.
Oh. As long
Yes.
as no
All
sauce.
for later.
Yes.
Sounds like a weird fetish, if you ask me.
All right.
Maybe we should get into the show.
The show is already starting to deteriorate, and we just started.
You're welcome.
Let's get into the show before this gets any worse. Let me pull up the trivia questions and answers from last week, and then Cam will start us off. Trivia questions from last week. From Gray 17 is missing. Where is it? Which police department did Garibaldi's grandmother work for? What is Garibaldi's nickname for Gray Sector? What is the name of the cult leader in Gray 17? Where is Delin's mother? And, of course, what is the name of the Minbari master who trained Marcus in the pike? And it also trained the guy he's fighting with, whose name escapes me for a second.
Naroon.
Naroon. There we go. Thanks. And the answers, of course. She was the police department in Boston. Garibaldi calls the Gray Sector the Centauri Triangle. Jeremiah was the name of the cult leader. He only mentioned his name once. It was pretty quick. You had to be paying attention. And Delin's mother joined a Minbari convent. And Durhan was the name of the guy, the master who trained Marcus and Naroon in the pike.
Ooh.
Yeah, right on. Okay. Cam, let's turn it over to you. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Season 3, episode 20, episode 64 overall, and The Rock Cried Out, No Hiding Place, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Original air date October 14th, 1996, and 320 production order, so right in line. A delegation of religious leaders comes to Babylon 5 to visit Brother Theo and to provide assistance to Sheridan. Londo sets a plan in motion to rid himself of Lord Rifa.
All right. So the episode starts off with Ivanova doing a voiceover. We see telepaths being shipped out. We see Sheridan in the war room, haggard, working and tired. We see Franklin carrying on with his walkabout. We see Brother Theo ministering to the people and helping to calm them down. And we also see Jakar talking to Ivanova about about sending Narn soldiers with each telepath. The scene then cuts, and we see Londo tell Veer they're eating dinner or lunch or something in his quarters, it looks like. And Londo tells Veer that he has a plan to kill Jakar. Finally, he's going to get rid of his nemesis. A little shocking. And then, of course, that's the cold open. Then we have the intro after that, the Babylon 5 intro. Right afterwards, we see other religious leaders arriving, as Cam mentioned. There's a bit of a conflict between Brother Theo and the Baptist preacher, William, I think his name is. And there's a little back and forth, some good little ribbing and stuff. They seem to kind of like each other, even though they insult each other back and forth. And also, Lord Rifa arrives with a mysterious, important-looking Centauri, who we later find out is a minister named Virini. Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of, well, there's really two main plots going on that I see in the show. We kind of have the telepaths being sent out. That's kind of just a side. So that kind of closes up the loop from last episode, which is good. But we have the Lynn Sheridan and the religious leaders path, the plot, and of course the Londo Rifa plot. In the Act 1 of the Delin Sheridan thing, we've got Sheridan working too hard, Delin, ribbing him, giving a little bit, calling him crotchety, and that sort of thing. He doesn't seem to take it really too much, but she's being a little bit playful. Obviously, she is. Every episode we see, she seems to become a little more enamored with him, a little more in love with him. At the same time, we see Londo bringing in Veer, telling him he's going to go to see Jakar. He's going to tell him that Natoth has been found, and she's being kept in the dungeons of the Kari back on Narn, and hopefully that's going to get Londo to go to try to save her, and then that will be and Londo will be able to capture him and kill him. That's the plan that Londo tells Veer. Second act, we've got the preacher. They give some information to Sheridan. they're basically an intelligence network. They've captured all this intelligence. Babylon 5 is complaining about how they don't know what's going on Earth. These preachers have got all this various intelligence, and they bring it to him, and they're passing it along to him as well. Later on, Sheridan is sitting in alone in some sort of public space. I'm not sure where it was exactly, but the preacher William comes in and talks to him and gives him a little bit of advice about sharing his burden. If not the responsibility, then at least the burden, having someone to talk to. He mentions Delin loves him, and Sheridan gets his back up a little bit and says, it's kind of rude, and says, hey, thanks, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Preacher doesn't give up and gives him some very good advice about, even just talking to someone about your problems. It helps to sharing the burden. And as well, in that time frame, we see Veer kidnapped by Rifa. Rifa has gotten word that Lando's up to something. He kidnaps Veer, and he threatens him and tries to induce him, bribe him, but also threatens him. In the end, he uses a telepath to pick all this information that Lando's given out of Veer's brain, and he's going to go himself to Narn. He's going to get a bunch of Centauri soldiers, use them, and capture Jakar himself and get the glory for it with the Emperor. Oh yes, I forgot to mention the minister there, Varani, is there's a talk with him in the first act, and he basically says the Emperor doesn't care. He wants you two, Londo and Rifa, to stop fighting. He doesn't really care who wins. He's got no he's got no strong feelings either way. So you guys kind of sort it out. And then, of course, the third act, we have Delin and Sheridan. Sheridan shares the problem with Delin. They figure out what the shadows are up to, and they have a little kiss at the very end. So their love is slowly strengthening.
Oh, you spoiled Jeanette's favorite part.
Sorry. And meanwhile, we find out on Narn that it was all a big ruse by Londo. Everybody's in on it except Rifa. He's captured by the Narn, beaten senseless and killed, and his whole house has been shamed because they quote found, it was planted evidence by Londo, but found evidence that he was supposedly going to give to the Narn about their defenses and all that stuff. And yes, Londo has won the conspiracy battle between him and Rifa. He's removed his enemy, and he has embarrassed his house and probably put them out for forever. And that's basically what happens in the episode very quickly. Back to you, Cam.
Okay, I had just to review the story. You kind of mentioned it, but I would put the Londo and Rifa and Veer story, the Centauri storyline, as the A plot actually in this, and then the B plot would be Sheridan with the tangents off of it, Brother Theo and his visitors and such.
I could see that. Yeah,
I would agree with that too.
Yeah, me too. I'm not fussed about it. I wasn't saying they were either A or B. I was just doing them in a whatever order I wrote them down.
Okay, and then we had, I guess technically it's another plot, but it's so brief. The telepath, the telepath being
the tangential stuff.
Yeah,
yeah,
and of course.
Would you say, I wouldn't say that's a plot really. I would say that's an update from a past story, kind of just like, this is happening.
That's fair. Yep. Same thing with Franklin. We just see him for a second,
Well, they also mentioned talking about the non-aligned, what's left of the non-aligned worlds and stuff. So it's kind of not an info dump, but an info dump in a way.
That's
all. Ivanova's updating things.
All Ivanova's monologue is, I'd say, it's a little update.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we also get this the Z minus 14 days, Z minus 13 days. I don't remember if it went to Z minus 12.
Z minus 10.
It ends with Z minus 10 days.
It jumps from 13
That's
to
the very
10.
last thing that shows up in the credits.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, why don't we start out with and again, Snob has commented that we often spend a lot of time going over what happened, which is fine if it's relevant to what you're saying, but let's just see what the thoughts are. Let's start with the Londo and Rifa storyline. And I'll just briefly set it, and then I'll turn it over. Outpost Nerd, get ready. I'm going to throw to you this week for the first one.
Okay.
So this is Lando's revenge, right? He has set up this plot to do this double cross, keeping it, playing it close to the vest, in which he is able to utilize Jakar and frame, like Snob said, frame Rifa. I've got a number of questions or comments with this, but Outpost Nerd, I'll let you comment on. You can go through the whole storyline here. I'm not saying you need to review the storyline, just your initial thoughts on it. We'll kind of go around and then maybe a couple times.
I think Lord Rifa's fate was one of the best ways you could have ended his story, using the Narns to kill him after what he's done to them.
Yeah,
I thought that was just a perfect choice, and I love it how till the very last second, Rifa thinks he's won,
right.
And I just love that scene, the look on his face when he's running down the hall, and all of a sudden those Narns just appear out of nowhere, and you see him just trying to push through past them. There's no way he can do it, and the actor made the weirdest choice of that face he made. Just that it's like that grimace that he tried to make. But I love how this is. I loved Londo's whole speech, the holographic speech. This was Rifa made it personal when he killed that woman. Can't remember her name that Londo loved. So this was
Adira.
Yes.
Adira.
And Rifa didn't kill Adira.
Yeah, Rifa didn't kill her.
No.
Well, but Londo thinks.
Yeah. So this is an incredible ploy by the Shadows to probably put things in motion that clears up some of their mess left behind.
But
it's been so long since I've seen that. I forgot that he did not kill her.
Yeah.
But
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
We talked about it in the episode.
Yeah, Morden arranged it to
Morden
get
arranged
Londo back on board, back on side.
Yeah. And Londo assumes it's
and blamed Rifa. Yeah.
Well, but Outpost Nerd's position though still holds, because that's what's being presented in the show. You know, that Londo's working from that assumption, and I absolutely, as everyone knows, that Londo's my favorite character. I really love that this is a portrayal of Londo being able to exercise power when he wants to of his own. And that's actually an interesting point. Is we didn't remember when Adira was killed, we saw Londo going back to Morden and being like, I don't care, let the galaxy burn, but I'm going to do this. But we didn't see Morden involved with this plot at all. What do you think about that? Dean, let's go to you, or anything, but that's just a point that we could all discuss,
I don't think. I think the Shadows have bigger things on their minds right now, and the Centauri people, so long as they remain in their role, which is to continue the wars, to continue moving on their neighbors, they're probably happy. As it is, they probably still have links into the court, and I don't think they had anything to do with what happened, other than they set in motion the conflict between the two houses. And this really comes out. The one thing I love about this episode is we truly see Londo now assuming his mantle of power. He is in control. He is powerful. He's well-spoken. He is doing politicking at its best for the Centauri, as is represented in the Centauri court. His subterfuge, his using Veer in the way he did. I know Veer did not like it at the end, but you're talking genius here.
Butt hurt. He got butt hurt.
That was such a complete difference from what I remember that we've ever seen Londo. He was almost like viscerally angry, like, don't you dare disobey me, Veer. I have enough on you to ruin your life. And he's gone from the Joker that we saw, like, just was there to gamble and drink on B5, to this Machiavellian, like, sinister chess player of a politician. And it's such an I agree. with Cam, Londo is one of the best written characters on this show.
Yeah.
He's got an amazing story arc.
Well, that's all excellent points. But Jeff, you said he was butthurt, but Londo didn't just threaten Veer; he threatened his family. I mean, he was really vicious. Like Outpost Nerd, I think you're referring to Machiavellian. You know, he was brutal with Veer in that threat.
I think the stakes were so high that Londo had no choice but to pull out all the stops and with Veer, because he knows how Veer is. And you know, Veer is his Jiminy Cricket. We you know, I've said that before. And you know, he needed him to do this task, and yes, he could not tell him. And when if Veer you know, is to think about it, he knows what Londo said is true. If I had told you the whole story, you would have, you know, they would have got it out of you. So
yeah, I mean, Londo had to be this strong, because it's coming to a head. One house will survive, the other house will fall. And Reefer was already making moves. House Malari was going to fall unless Londo did something. The stakes were incredibly high, and I think that forces Londo to really now move into this position of power. And it doesn't matter who he's using around him; his house is at stake.
It's bigger than him.
Minister Verini is on board Babylon 5 to talk to both of them, to say, look, either settle your grievances with each other, or one of you will remain in court and the other one won't. You know, because the Emperor Katagia, he's had enough. You're damaging the court, and you're damaging the reputation of the Centauri. I also like the way that Reefer tried to use all of the stuff he had done for Emperor Katagia against Verini, threatening him. Yes. And I think that's beautifully represented at the very end. Verini's given all this evidence, and Verini could have said, look, this looks planted. This isn't, but it was that it was that, you know, Reefer threatened me. He threatened to reveal what he had done for us to bring us into power. He's out the picture. Good. Let's just accept this as the gift it is.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think at that point, I don't think the material that was planted on him even mattered.
No, it didn't.
I agree with you on that, Dean.
I mean, I think, you know, if you look at it, you know, they already know, you know, because even Rifa so much as said, I cleared the way for the Emperor to get there. So they know that he was part of this, you know, this cabal.
Rifa was, you guys are right. Rifa was really overconfident with that.
Yes.
And if you and I'll throw to Snob in a second here since he has it. But notice the difference. Like when Rifa's talking to the minister, he's almost talking down to him. Whereas Londo comes in, he's like, "Oh, Excellency," you know, blah blah blah, and acts very properly. And so his later play, you know, works very well. You know, Londo had this in mind from front to back.
Can I say something off of that, Cam?
Sure.
If you look at how the actors are positioned, the minister is in his chair. Rifa is standing up, looking directly into his eyes. You didn't do that in that kind of court. Londo comes in, and when Rifa's coming out, you see when they come in face to face for the first time in a long time, you could feel that spark of hatred. But Londo knows, and I think this is where Rifa made one of his critical mistakes. He talked down literally to the minister.
Yeah. Right. Londo
was very, yes, minister, this is what I have done. You know, he talks. He's very humble almost towards the minister. Rifa is just, this is what I did. I did this for the. It showed the difference. How different ways of coming at the situation that both Rifa and Londo had. Yeah, blocking.
Yeah. Yep. And we'll come back around. But Snob, what are your initial thoughts on this whole plot line?
All right, let me address the Minister Varani thing that you guys were just talking about. Then I'll sort of go back over the other stuff. Yeah, I think this was it was good. I good points by everyone made. But I think the last scene with him looking there, I think that Varani kind of knows he doesn't really care so much with who does what. I think at this level of court in the Centauri Republic, they all know that everybody's dirty, that everyone's doing dirty things, that everybody's got skeletons in their closet, and he just wants to find, he just wants this settled. The Emperor wants this settled, so he's representing him.
Londo
He
gave
doesn't
what he
really
needed.
care who wins so much,
They-
but he kind of implies to them, like he basically says to them, like he says, "Oh, we want this sorted out." I mean, he's implying to them, to sort it out in the usual Centauri way by stabbing each other in the back and
Maybe
destroying each other. And then
he left happy, right?
yeah. And he's like, and he doesn't really care. And he's like, and the Emperor basically tells them that, like, he doesn't say it per se, but I'm sure they both know that. They're like, okay, well, the Emperor has no strong feelings either way. Okay, that means he wants us to sort it out ourselves, i.e., stab each other in the back, poison each other, but
any means necessary. Yeah,
whatever means you're going to use, sort it out. Otherwise, he has to pick, and the Emperor doesn't want to pick. He wants to remain above it. He doesn't want to,
I just don't think he cares.
Yeah,
either way.
Yeah, I don't think he really cares, but he also doesn't want to show favoritism to anybody, because anytime you have to make a decision at that level, then you're going to piss someone else off.
There's a visual perspective from the Centauri people to see the two strongest houses going back and forth, and I think it looks bad. It looks bad for the Emperor.
Yeah, but I think for the Emperor's total,
any means necessary.
Yeah, the Emperor completely. Any decision you make makes enemies, so it's best for him if he doesn't have to decide. If one of them take the other out, then the decision's made for him, and he doesn't really care either way. So, this is the perfect thing for them. And I don't think Varani, Varani's looking at the crystal. I don't think he really cares one way or the other. He probably assumes that both of them, whatever information he got is a lie, just used, and he'll be happy to use it to carry the narrative, whatever it is, to make things, go away. But anyway, I wanted to go back to some of the other stuff. I like this whole scene. I like that the audience is kept in the dark until the very end. That's well done. I appreciate that. Someone already mentioned it, but Londo, we finally see Londo as this great conspirator, which is the way I see him, and I haven't been seeing him. And if you remember from the where a deer is killed, I was kind of expressing some negativity that Londo just fell right away. Oh, Rifa must have did it, and he doesn't think beyond that. I found that was a little bit out of character for what I think would be Londo. He should be thinking, well, could have been someone else, and not jumping to conclusions like that. But this kind of helps me bring, because he does. It's a pretty good conspiracy. It's fairly well set up, and it's done. His treatment of Veer, when I first watched the first time, he's getting onto Veer and threatening his family, everything. Whoa, this is really harsh. Does Veer deserve this? I don't think so. I agree with whoever said it earlier, that he was trying to, he needed to make sure that Veer did this. And I half expected Veer to go and tell Jakar, hey, don't go, it's a trap or something, maybe, something like that. But we didn't get that at all. So I guess Londo really did need to threaten Veer so strongly in order to make sure that it was done this way, because, Veer had to not know. He had to be kept in the dark. And lastly, I think this is kind of a small little piece, and I didn't notice it the first time I watched the show, but if you watch when they come out of they have the scene in the hallway where right after they've seen the minister, Veer confronts Londo, says, oh, you shouldn't do this and stuff, and Londo says, no, I got to do it. And then you see the guard, run away right off the bat, right?
One of the guards
to go tell Rifa. Every time we've seen Centauri guards, they've always stood there, very solitary and never moved or anything.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy, running away. I immediately thought, oh, someone's going to go tell Rifa. But then when I watched it the second time, if you notice, they have this discussion, and then Londo, Peter Jurassic, his character takes a little look over at the guard. His head just moves almost imperceptibly, and then the guard takes off like he's giving him a signal. And I'm like, there's a little hidden part that there is the little tag that hints that, hey, Londo already knows what's going on and he's setting this up. And I didn't catch it the first time, but I caught it the second time. So if you didn't see that,
I caught him
go
taking
and look that again.
I caught the guard taken off I think he was wanting to make sure because I think the guard was working for Rifa.
The guard was working for Londo.
Oh no! See, I think I would disagree.
And he was going. He had already set that. This is my theory. The guard is working for Londo. He's got the other guards on the Narn homeworld already. He's got this guy. This guy's job is to go and tell Rifa this. And when he looks over at him to make sure that he's going to, to go tell him, and the guard's like, "Oh yeah, I got to go tell him," and he runs off. And
see, I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted it as his job was to keep an eye out. He was on he was on Rifa's payroll, and as soon as he overheard the plot that was going on, that was his cue.
Here's the thing: it works out either way.
It does, yeah, it does. But I'd never thought of it from Snob's point of view, but I actually like Snob's view on this, and I think that's probably makes a bit more sense.
Londo a little
Londo's
more
giving the nod to say now's the time. And the guard peels off. Could have been in Rifa's payroll, but he's given the guard more information to make sure Rifa acts on it.
See, I take it as
Tom's always right. So
I take it as the guy really was working. Oh, hey, BP, that the guard was working for Rifa, but Londo was also aware of that there was somebody that would have been doing it, and it's like, he had that conversation there for a reason, right?
Here's what you want to do if you want to sort this out once and for all. Go back and watch very clearly, and I don't know the answer myself. I have to watch it again. Go and see, does Londo look and then the guard moves, or does the guard move and then Londo looks?
But
if Londo looks and the guard moves, the guard's like, "Oh yeah, that's my cue. I almost forgot. I'm supposed to go and tell this guy something."
Oh, see,
and if it's the other way, it's the reverse.
Either way, it works though, because either way, he's checking to make sure that the guard overheard his conversation.
I think because if the guard is not under Londo's pay, Londo is making one big assumption that Veer will challenge him in the corridor for the guard to overhear. What if Veer kept quiet?
Yep.
I think the guard is under Londo's pay. And
now we know Veer is gonna challenge him in the corner because everybody in Babylon 5 talks in public about all these secret things.
Everybody does.
But
can you believe
Londo doesn't know
secret ranger group just cause it?
Yeah, but Londo wouldn't leave it to chance. So I think the guard is indeed under Londo's pay.
He's foolish if he does.
Yeah,
if you ask me.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question to you guys real quick. Mm-hmm. How many dark, empty rooms are on this space station? Holy cow! How many times do we see just someone sitting in an empty room under a spotlight? It's ridiculous. You think a space station with limited space wouldn't just have big empty rooms like that?
How did they make the room do that?
Hold on. Let me reset again, and I'll go to Outpost Nerd after.
Let's just before you do, Cam. Let's just Q2 says he looks over to the guard twice. I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to rewatch, but interesting if that's true. So sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk now about the dark rooms you guys are mentioning. That we see this, portrayal of Rifa is like, Rifa's got Londo's number and he's gonna get one over on him, right? Outpost, anything in that realm, because they're setting up the audience, right? I mean, they're fooling us.
Mm-hmm.
He's fooling us by doing that. So go ahead, and you don't have to restrict to that. Anything else you want to just? We're just going to go around here because it's such a great storyline.
I think Londo had to use Londo. I think he's known. Did he grow up with Rifa? They've known each other for a very long time, right?
His friend was Urza. I don't know. I don't know that he knew
Urza
Rifa
was his friend, but
I think he knew of Rifa at least. When he first appeared, but I'm not sure he had
biggest houses, right? So he would have at least known of him and met him on social occasions, etc. So. I
don't think anything's implied that they knew each other in childhood.
So Londo had to use Veer the way he did, because if he had told him the truth, that psychic would have just
eaten it up.
Yeah.
Londo left nothing to chance.
Right.
I love the scene we're talking about, the dark room where he's been you see how strong Veer actually is. that it took a psychic to get the information out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's beaten to a pulp, and Veer does not betray Londo at all. And I love the scene where you hear the guard is standing there, and you hear the doorbell chime, and he steps out, and all of a sudden you see, bam, punch, and Londo's just coming and shaking him. Ow, God, my hand, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And you see that, and it shows that pretty much, I think, with him getting as vicious as he did was kind of an act to get Veer to do what he needed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Because and I love that duplicity in Londo in this whole episode.
It's almost like a double.
Yeah,
You know?
it's like a was it a triple spy or something kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Triple agent. Yeah, he was pulling a triple cross.
Yeah.
Jeff, what else you got? Any comments about Rifa and his boy?
I had two things that I wanted to bring up that I have written down.
Sure.
The first one is the accusations that Londo has against Rifa are not untrue. I mean, he did do the death camps and this and that and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And he is responsible for millions of Narns. We don't know if all of them, but he certainly is. He was allied with,
Well, the mass drivers were his thing.
I was going to get there. Yeah. He is, yes, Londo is guilty of asking for them to solve the Narn problem. And then but the mass drivers, that was not Londo, that was Rifa.
Yeah, Rifa.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
So, I mean, so really, it's not untrue. Yes, Londo maybe started the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Okay, but when I was talking earlier about the betrayal to the minister, he is like that data crystal is of a bunch of information that supposedly Rifa was going to give to the Narns, and that's not true. They plant that on him. He's not going to give that to the Narns. The other stuff is true, of course.
No, Londo's speech to Rifa are accurate accusations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and he really did, do a lot of the things. And I think the minister knows that, yes, that he did a lot of those things for the emperor. My understanding is the emperor is kind of a weak figurehead for the most part. But maybe he's not as weak as we had been led to believe.
Have we met Cartagia in person yet?
Not yet.
We have.
Not in this season.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if it was this season or next season.
Yeah.
I would agree that the Emperor has been portrayed as a bit weak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Londo and some other characters have sort of mentioned it.
Well,
he kind of goes wherever, but
see that's something else that's kind of behind the scenes here. Is Rifa mentions that he, to the minister, that he has strong control of their Congress. I forget what they're called. The
Centaurum.
The Centaurum.
Centauri Republic.
Right. Yeah. And that might work to the Emperor's advantage to be like, yeah, this is, because remember Rifa, there were a number of things that he was pushing through. Oh, when with Urza, that he was pushing these attacks on Urza's family through the Centaurum and such. So him being out of the way, or having a looser, no grip at this point, but someone not having a strong control of the Centaurum would possibly benefit the Emperor too. They didn't go into it really too much here, but it just makes sense, right? They have these different branches, and where it's kind of
and discrediting Rifa and his house and his allies would basically, by exposing this information to the public, if it comes to light, they're going to have little choice but to turn on Rifa.
That's right. So that's why the Londo's plan to do that really. He anticipated what the minister might want. You know what I'm saying? If you kind of look a little bit further into it, so it's like even if the minister's like, yeah, this is garbage. It's like, who cares? It works for me. Like
just make it public. Let it leak out publicly and come out and be a big scandal that Rifa was actually doing this. And the other thing I was going to bring up before I forget is, Rifa, he was 100% accurate. Rifa was only out for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Londo,
He's a patriot. He's
a patriot. Yeah, he is out for. He wants to bring back the great Grand Centauri Republic, the old days. He wants to restore. It's not necessarily for power. His pursuit of power is for that means or for that end game.
Yeah.
Not because he wants power just to be in power.
Well, I think Rifa has said openly that he plans on taking the throne at some point, right?
Yes, he has said
Not
that
anymore.
Right. Okay, Dean, what do you got on any of this, middle part or any of it? Any other points you want to make?
Just say Veer hadn't been beaten up. He was kept in the dark room. Rifa kind of began quizzing him, but time was of the essence, so they just brought in the
no,
psycho.
because remember when Londo comes in, he looks at Veer's face and you see him flinch because he's got like a huge bruise on his face.
All right, I didn't notice. I just went back to that scene, and Veer didn't look like he'd been touched.
It didn't to me.
I think it was a mental scarring because he just had a psychic in his head ripping out his memories,
and against his will, and
and he was yelling.
But either way, I think you raised a good point, which is Veer fought every minute. He fought against the psychic to keep Londo's secret safe, and that just shows the loyalty Veer still has for Londo. And I suspect, even at the very end when Veer goes, Londo, you've crossed the line. I think Veer's loyalty to Londo is still intact, and that I'm reminded of Hostage and their captive, and I'm wondering whether their relationship is moving more into something
Stockholm
like that.
syndrome.
Now. Yeah, Veer feels captured by Londo, and it's Stockholm syndrome. It's that. It's there was something that did come up, but it's gone now, unfortunately. If it comes back, I'll be sure to leap in.
We'll go around again. Snob, anything on this stuff with Rifa and the interrogation?
I would suggest that perhaps that Rifa is actually is the most powerful house, more so than Londo's house than Mollari. Because he's be able to use the Centaurum that way. And if you look, I hate to be the first one to refer to an outside property, but if you look at Dune, in Dune, the Emperor uses the Harkonnens to take care of the Atreides, who are on the rise and are a threat to his power, even though we know the Atreides wouldn't normally try to overthrow them. Look at, but it's that. Well, let me just
sorry.
That's the kind of so the Emperor is probably happier that Londo has won this battle because and I think the way that the two act with the minister, Londo more deferential, also it gives us an idea of the relative power of them within the Centauri Republic,
or what they perceive their power as, maybe.
perception is reality sometimes.
A good example of that. Look at Londo's position. He's ambassador on Babylon 5, which was not a very popular posting. He was there as kind of a throwaway at the beginning. So I think that also shows that compared to House Rifa and House Mollari, if you compare, House Mollari is probably the lesser house. And this has just completely changed the dynamics, I'd say, of the entire Centaurum.
Well, I would, while I would agree at the beginning, Londo was very involved in the war against the Narn. So his house has risen. So I'm not sure we know exactly after, Londo rises up, exactly where he sits, relative to Rifa or anybody else. But I would suggest that at this point, Rifa's house is actually more powerful
I think,
based on the way he's acting.
I would agree. I think that Rifa overestimated that, but he had the more public power, right? Because it's like, we know that he controls the Centaurum, right? Officially or not. And so that was certainly seems like that would be a reasonable perception for people to have, that Rifa had the upper hand.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And again,
the last thing I would mention too is I think it's going to be interesting about Veer, that I think, Veer's reaction at the very end, you've crossed the line, is great and very much into what Veer should act like. And I'm glad they put that in there, and I'm curious to see where it goes later
True.
on if
Mhm.
we're going to have some sort of payoff for that.
Repercussions down the line.
Yeah.
Next time that he sees Londo doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, all good points. I have another point and like to hear what you guys think. But again, you could go back to anything you want. Dean, if you remember your point, of course. So the one thing I started thinking about with this is where Jakar was brought in on this plan, because clearly it wasn't at the very end. He had to have been tipped off at some point. But one of the things that I need to point out here is there's a big change in Londo here. He trusted Jakar. I mean, we know that he bought him off in some ways and everything, but there is some sort of trust between these two that existed for this plan to be executed. And I think that's very interesting, and that's why I bring up the question of, well, when was Jakar brought in on this? Was it on Narn that someone contacted him, or did Londo behind the scenes say, "Hey, I know Veer told you this, but here's what's going down"? I don't know the answer to that, but it's interesting because clearly at some point he had to have been brought in on the plan.
Well, I don't think that's is that ever addressed?
I don't think it is.
It sort of is. It sort of is because, and I didn't know if we were going to get to this point yet or not.
Well, go run with it, Jeff. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that you see when you're doing the holographic, the holographic projection that Jakar clearly hadn't activated. So he was clearly given this by somebody,
right?
That deliberately from Londo. Is he released 1,000 Narns and would release 1,000 more upon completion of the task.
And Jakar had to have known that about the 1,000, right?
Oh yes,
yeah. So the 1,000 had to have been released already before he would have even have been willing to go ahead and do this. Of course we're led to believe as the audience we're brought down this path of yes, Natoth, what we're going to do is we're going to capture Jakar, and this is going to be our grand thing. Really, it's going to be we're going to get rid of Rifa.
Dean, what do you think about that whole Jakar part in this?
It's never addressed, but I suspect this plan was hatched before Veer was even told to go and contact Jakar. And it would need to have been. Londo would make sure nothing could go wrong. And what if Jakar was a loose cannon that he couldn't control? So that had to be addressed right at the start. And I suspect it would have been too much screen time to do it, but I suspect there were probably very tentative meetings between him and Jakar. Very much probably, backroom dealings. They probably found another one of these dark rooms somewhere on the station and had a clandestine meeting where Londo would have mentioned to Jakar the plot, what he could do. And I would imagine it kind of went back and forth a little bit, and then it was like, okay, so what if we free 1,000 Narns and then another 1,000 when you killed Rifa? Otherwise, Londo's leaving a lot of stuff to chance. And part of that is that Jakar would actually go along with this. And instead, Veer could have told Jakar, and Jakar could have gone, right, I've got people on Narn, let them deal with it, rather than going himself.
One of the things that we haven't touched on yet was the very beginning when we were still getting the different narrations from Ivanova, and then they kick in and you see Jakar and he's arguing for this, that, and the other with about his men, and how valuable they are.
Offering a bodyguard for each telepath. Yes.
Right.
Because aren't the Narns one of the few races that don't have telepaths?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and that was done by the Shadows. We found this out like a couple episodes ago that the Shadows.
The Mind Walkers were
so Jakar's looking for more ways to contribute.
I think that's very clear. He can't contribute to the telepaths unless because they don't have any, so he wants to protect them. He wants to feel part, and it's smart for Ivanova to say, "Of course, we'll let you make him, keep him in the group." I wanted to agree though with Dean. I think it's going to have it has to have the plan has to be hatched. It's a lot of details. It can't be done on the fly. It's got to be before Rifa gets there for sure, because Rifa's going to be watching Londo like a hawk when he arrives, and probably even before that, he's got people on there watching it. So he's going to have to be very careful. But it's going to be worse when he gets there. So this has got to be done weeks in advance, ready to go. The whole plan done, and even it's got to even be kept from Veer. Londo is going to have to meet with Jakar or however they do it, and Veer can't know anything about this, which is pretty tough because Veer's basically Londo's right hand, and he's with him all the time. So it'd be interesting to see how they put that together. But I think they kind of just hand wavy him it away. But it's going to have to be gone on for weeks.
Yeah. What do you think, Outpost Nerd, about the conspiracy?
I agree with Snob. This could not have been left to chance. I could see Londo using someone as a go-between. Maybe someone outside of the Narns or Centauri. So, it just couldn't have happened.
Yeah, I don't think Londo and Jakar would have talked directly.
Yeah,
I think there would have been an intermediary.
But I found it interesting that Londo is starting to really be willing to work with other races to get what he wants.
Yeah, they're useful tools, I think, to Londo at this point.
Sure.
At this point,
useful pieces on the board. I don't think it's anything more. I don't think this is repairing the friendship that I say friendship. I don't think it's repairing the relationship that Londo and Jakar used to have. I think the two still absolutely hate each other. But yeah.
At this point, yeah.
Okay.
Really, you really believe that? Because I would think that maybe that this is a sign that they have been, forgiving each other, for Jakar for what Londo did, and Londo for Jakar beating the crap out of him that one time.
I don't think Jakar will ever forgive
I'm not sure.
Londo.
I'm not sure, but yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
I want to add something else, but it's a different topic.
We already saw in the flash forward that Londo and Jakar do end up with some sort of relationship.
And that would be my point as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is maybe the start of that, right?
Okay.
Could be.
Within the story, I think, yes, that we've seen that. They haven't, those characters haven't experienced it yet, where they end up, I mean. But I do think this is, from Straczynski, him saying, okay, now I'm moving towards it. I showed the audience where it's going to end up. Now I could start taking things. But I don't think that there is any friendship of any kind. I think I'm leaning more with Dean here at this point between these two characters. They hate each other. Now, in terms of when the conspiracy took place, you guys make good points, but I lean towards Londo for the reasons you guys state. Is he isn't leaving things to chance. So I think he set the trap for Jakar and then was like, I've got you. I'm now going to, but I'm going to give you a gift. It's like, not only am I not going to hurt you, I'm going to let you do what you want to do, and I'm going to sweeten the deal with these thousands of Narn freed. So short version, I think that he was probably brought in once he was on Narn, and we this isn't a direct support of this, but we also know that Londo had manipulated whoever the little guy that was running, putting together the facsimile of the palace.
Drigo?
Is that his name?
I think so.
Okay.
Drigo, yeah.
Because he said, "Oh, I need your best guards." Well, that guy knew exactly who to give him.
Drigo's sure.
Drigo.
Or Londo had already made it so all the guards were, under his control. So I can't prove that. I'm just saying that my sense was that it would have been a big stretch to ask that without having some leverage on Jakar, And again, Jakar knew.
Well, the 2,000 Narns is the leverage.
Yeah. That's and he released 1,000 as a sign of
good faith,
Yeah,
and then
But-
he
but what
promised
did
to
you-
release the other 1,000.
But what did Jakar? What did Londo say though? He said, "In the event he doesn't believe this, I've given the other ones."
That brings me to my question that I'd like to ask about. Do you think did we as the audience know that the information that they planted on Rifa's body was fake?
No,
Yeah.
it's
Did
not
you-
fake.
It is fake.
It is fake.
It is fake. Yeah.
I don't think the information that
Reefer's
they,
not going there
No,
to
yeah,
help
it is-
the,
it's-
help
Oh,
the
yeah.
Narns.
No. This is. I don't think that. Well, maybe there was.
That's
some
what was on the data
false
crystal
information.
was this false conspiracy
The,
that he
the,
was
the,
Well,
the
collaborating
5 to
with
6 million Narns and that's not on the data crystal. Everyone knows, like the Emperor knows that. He doesn't.
But
care about that
let me pose my question.
Sure.
Did Jakar believe it? Did Jakar think it was true? That's
Which
the
part?
question. That
Well,
the
that's-
information on the data crystal was true.
Well, this is where Londo's message actually, and I think they did talk about this, and it was, look, in case Jakar doesn't believe this, I have also arranged 1,000 Narn, 2,000 Narn to be released, 1,000 now and 1,000 on completion. So I think when Londo was talking to Jakar, and I do think the two probably had a conversation, he would have seen the skepticism in Jakar's face, because Jakar thinks Londo's responsible for all of this, and it was okay. So how about 1,000 Narn released now and 1,000 when you killed Rifa?
Yeah, and here's
yeah.
the information that Rifa really did it, not me.
Yeah, exactly. And then Londo would have had this pre-recorded message then sent with Jakar. However, Cam, I also understand from your point of view how that could. There's a lot of speculation here, so I'm surprised, Outpost, you haven't exploded yet, because we are going into deep speculation.
I'm gonna go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, you see,
But I think it shows the great writing of the show, which is we can now speculate, and I think both routes actually work.
This story,
There's a lot of that too in this.
I don't
episode.
mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind speculating on this story in particular, because a lot of it is left ambiguous. A lot of it for the story to work, Straczynski had to leave so much out. So
Well,
I'm
there is-
going to give it a
so
pass
here's-
on this time.
There's one.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If
We get a pass. Thanks,
let's say
man.
Jakar gets to Narn, and he, then Londo springs it on him. Hey, I've got you. You're screwed. You got to do this. You got to do that. He might say, look, that could be a trick too. I don't believe.
Right.
Maybe this is another one of Londo's tricks. He's already tricked me here.
I think
Maybe this is a trick too.
Yeah.
Why don't I just run and take off and risk it, and I'm gonna try to escape. That would
This-
be the natural thing. So
This goes
that
into the
applies to
theory
me.
that he knew before.
Yeah,
He
that
didn't
applies to
leave
me.
it
He
on.
knows before. Also,
Okay.
I would mention another little point. Notice when Veer goes to meet Jakar,
Yeah.
the guard is there, and the guard doesn't even look at him. Like the guard should be
Right.
like, "Oh, you're a dirty Centauri." He's just sort of standing there as if Jakar had said, "Listen, by the way, there's going to be a Centauri named Veer, and he's going to come to me. Let him in." Kind
Well,
of thing.
okay. This brings
So
up.
he doesn't. He seems nonplussed about the whole thing. At least he doesn't even look at him. At least he'd be like, "Oh, there's a Centauri, our great enemy."
kind of ignores him.
Keep my eyes on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just
Well-
ignoring him, like
Okay, but it's Veer. You think that guard is scared of Veer in
Doesn't-
any way?
no, but it doesn't matter. You still keep your eyes on the guy, right? Like, what if he's
Yeah.
got something? Maybe
Okay.
he's trying to. Your job
Okay.
is to protect Jakar, right? So you. Gotta,
Okay, this is one of the points I wanted to bring up. It was Jakar's reaction to that. When he opens the door, he looks shocked. And this is how I took it. You guys might disagree. He looked kind of surprised to see him when he opened the door, and then Veer says da 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 da, and Jakar is again kind of like, oh, meaning like what he said was important to him, meaning about Natoth. And then he kind of just, curtly gestures like, okay, come in, we'll talk. So the way that scene to me is it makes me makes me disagree with the viewpoint that it was set up beforehand. Now, I can't say for sure. I'm just saying that this is the impression that I took away from it. Now, along with that, Jakar's reaction, he doesn't say a lot in this episode, but his reactions and the looks on his face are fantastic. He really, like when he's got the hologram thing and it's playing out, and Jakar, Andreas played this brilliantly, so he might be fooling me. It's like he did such a good job that he's fooling me. But I still don't see it though. But
I
agree that it could very well be that way though.
I don't think Natoth. Yes, I mean the possibility of her being alive might be motivation, but with the current situation, but
Yeah,
the ability to take out Rifa.
Garibaldi tells Jakar, "You're wanted, man. You're not going to make it back out of there alive, right?" Like so.
And Jakar was confident, and so was
I'm
Londo,
gonna,
for that matter.
No,
Londo
I think
was confident he would be able to do it.
I think it works well because this is the kind of thing that Jakar would do. I mean, for the audience, right? It's like we're not going, "Oh my gosh, what Jakar? He would never do that. This is crazy." And it's like, no, yeah, Jakar would totally do that.
No, I'm saying it's crazy, but I'm like, yeah, Jakar would probably do that.
Yeah.
No, so I'm going to say one other thing here. Okay, so I'm going to say that Jakar didn't expect Veer at that time, so he was just like, he didn't get signaled that Veer was there, so he just opened the door and he's like, "Oh, you're here now," so that's why he was surprised. I'm going to say that in order to make my plan work better, because you are right. He does seem surprised when he sees Veer there.
Yeah, but
I think he's deliberately acting surprised to see Veer.
I think so too. Just in case there's spies in the corridor, and to trick Veer,
trick Veer, because Veer doesn't even know. That's a good point. Oh, I take that back.
Because he's going to have a psychic in his head. He's going to have a telepath in his head, and that reaction needs to be visible.
And Londo already knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that he knew that Rifa was being accompanied by a psychic.
Well,
he suspected, I think, too.
Yes,
well,
he says. He says
afterwards. He says, "Well, I knew there was a telepath, but I think he would have set this up thinking, okay, here's Veer. I got to make sure that if he's tortured, he doesn't know anything. If they use a telepath, he doesn't know anything."
I must have totally missed. You're saying Londo mentioned that Rifa has telepath
when he rescued.
When he's talking with
afterwards, not afterwards. Afterwards.
Yeah, he said.
I needed you to believe it, Veer, because I knew he had a telepath with him. And they were going to scan you. Don't be such a prude about me tricking you. Don't be so mad about it.
Yes, I'm not going to destroy your life or your house. I'm your friend.
Yeah. It's that teasing that. Oh, look here, catch the dollar. Oh, sorry.
Well, I think Londo showing up personally to rescue Veer said a lot towards that.
Yes.
I was surprised at that a little bit. I thought he'd send a goon, but I think you're right.
All of this said, I could totally buy your guys' perspective on this, and it's like, and if somebody said, "Yeah, Straczynski talked about this, Jeff," in a commentary or something, I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, I could."
I didn't watch the last one yet.
I could totally buy it because I think
by Madman
to the commentary.
I think it's what your guys' position is very credible, but I just never took it that way. I figured it.
I think that's what makes this episode so great. Is there are so many possible ways that could have been true that we don't, and there's still a mystery. We don't really know what really was true. Precipitating the events.
Yeah.
But in the end, they all, there's all these different ways, the way that you took it, the way that Outpost took it, the way that Snob or I took it, Dean, we all kind of have our own little theories about what happened, but they all kind of work.
Yeah. And
okay. I want to ask one last small question, but before that, I think does someone want to answer PB's question here? I think this is important. I think we know the answer, but anybody want to answer that question? Did Morden have the Shadows do that and blame Rifa to bring Londo back to the fold, or am I thinking about something else Morden did? Same effect, just different incident.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's that in reference to? Do that?
Killing of Adira, I think.
The Shadows did. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're right, and
see, that's why I think it's a little strange that again Londo did fall for it, right? He was like, yeah, whatever, let everything burn. Well, hold on,
he was grief stricken though.
It's true, but he, what are we learning about Londo? It's like, well, yeah, maybe so, but I'm still not bringing that guy in on this. It's like either way, it's important. You know what I'm saying? That Morden was not involved with this.
Yes.
Londo did this on his own.
Yeah, I don't think Morden was involved. So to answer Petey's question, from what we saw, Morden killed Adira. That's very clear. The Shadows did all that.
Had her
And
killed.
what did he purposely do it to blame Rifa? I don't know, but that's how Londo took it and immediately jumped to the conclusion that Rifa did it and didn't even, as far as we can tell, examine that closely or was suspicious about it or anything. He did that to bring Londo back in the fold.
But I don't think it did. I have a sneaky suspicion that Londo's not truly back in the fold with the shadows.
He's having second thoughts about dealing with them, but at the time,
I think he's being duplicitous in that.
Maybe.
Yes, he truly was grief-stricken, and yes, that is the logical thing that maybe that you would first jump to. But when you think about it, he knows that the shadows will try anything, and I think he may be doing the same type of thing that he pulled on Rifa to the shadows.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, that episode is where Londo got Rifa to stop talking to Morden.
Yeah.
So the shadows lost all contact with the Centauri Court.
Right.
And that's why it was all engineered to bring the contact back to Londo. So they still had a point of presence within the Centauri Court. Because at the moment, Londo had basically cut out the shadows from being able to communicate.
Morden was complaining about. He's like, "What did you do?"
Reef is not answering my calls. What have you done? Right. And then all of a sudden, it was So I think, I think it was done so that they could still control the Centauri Court in some way or another. Yeah.
Well, even the whatever he is, the higher up that was there, Your Excellency, the minister, he pointed out that they had we heard accusations. Rifa has said that you have you poisoned him and he's poisoned you and this and that and the other, and so
and I would suggest that Londo saying that I want to watch the galaxy burn doesn't necessarily mean that he's in with the shadows.
Right.
He's just so pissed off that they've taken away the last thing.
I hope the world burns.
He was saying to hell with it. I don't care about anything else. But
that doesn't necessarily mean that, now I'm a big shadow guy and I'm right in. And I
love no. I think he realizes who the shadows are, and he's trying to distance himself from them still. Especially once he had the prophecies and his chances of escaping, and then his dream of the shadows flying over the Centauri Court, stuff like that. I think he's very wary of Morden, and we haven't seen Morden in a while, not since the shadows started moving openly.
Right.
So, all right. I hope we answered your question there, PB. You want to do my last little point there, Cam? My last little question. Is this a good time?
Well,
it's your show.
I was gonna go around one more time in regard with the thread of Rifa's murder. Go ahead. If you want.
Question here. It's
retribution. We'll call it retribution.
I just found it interesting that if you notice that when I don't know if this is or not. You notice that when Londo's giving his little hologram speech, when he goes through Rifa and he goes through Jakar, both of them flinch as if he's touched them. I'm not sure what that meant or what that was about, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, I don't know if people want to address that when we're going through our last.
I agree. It was an interesting bit instead of like this perfectly staged thing where he can see what's going on. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any significance to that, or is it just they don't want to be touched by Londo, or they're just like, does it hurt?
I think it's a natural reaction. You see something flying at your face, you're going to flinch a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rifa gets horribly murdered, right? Now his head survives as Jakar ordered, but what do we think about this whole scene? Let's start with Dean, or any other wrap up, anything else you might have forgotten, and then we'll move on to the other storylines.
Yeah, I think this is the most satisfying end to a episode I have seen in a long time, and it's just Rifa is a horrible person. He is odious. He's just oozing with, he has such a high regard for himself, and he thinks of no one else but himself. So to see a character like this brought down is fantastic. I do agree with Outpost that the facial expressions were quite something, but I guess the actor had a bunch of extras flying at him, body sort of hitting him. So I imagine he didn't have much control over that expression. But I think the way it kind of wraps up the whole Reefer storyline is fantastic, and it's immensely satisfying. Yep. It's a good scene.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty harsh, Dean. Remind me not to get on your bad side or double.
Oh no, and I think it was dovetailed with the singing. I think worked incredibly well, and we haven't touched on that yet. But I think the two scenes interlaced together.
And something
really
interesting
good.
about the singer, I'll mention when we get there. I thought, I agree with Dean. It's the most satisfying, the most ironic way for him to go is to go at the hands of the people he has committed genocide on. I think it also was it showed off how different Jakar himself is from the other Narn. The other Narn are almost kind of, for lack of a better word, more barbaric, while Jakar is more regal. You can see it in his clothes, the way he acts, the way he talks. Jakar does not take part in killing Reefa. He just stands back and lets it happen. And I love this.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say we know Jakar isn't above getting his hands dirty when he wants to. You know, he's capable of it.
He knows he's more enlightened than other. Jakar. He knows other Narn. He knows when to get his hands dirty, and he knows when to step back. And I love that acting choice that Andrea Katsoulis made when he just kind of drug his finger across Reefa's throat. Just keep the head intact for identification later. And it just gave such a chilling, like you knew the gravity of the situation. I think it was that moment Reefa, that and when the guards walked away, with the moment Reefa knew, I'm done for.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
I think the whole way that it played out was just excellent. So I think Reefa thought, haha, I have the upper hand, and he was all excited about, you're caught now, and I'm going to take credit for capturing the great mighty Jakar, was it Kari or whatever,
He blasted the Kari.
Yeah, so the fugitive of all fugitives, and we're going to bring him in chains and make sure we have a silver platter, to have Wanda's head. Yes, and the irony is it's going to be Reefa's head on a silver platter. Yeah. So kind of a very just desserts. Jakar, I think Jakar probably felt this to let his guys that he brought with him, let them revel in some sort of
blow off steam.
Yes, satisfaction for
Yeah, they were the guys here suffering the whole time,
Right. Yeah. Right. And whereas he's been on Babylon 5 most of the time, except for when he's been off and about. So, these guys really deserve, they deserve their retribution. And his satisfaction was in the fact that he was able to orchestrate it and actually make it, bring it to fruition. So I think that was his satisfaction.
Sure. So. Yeah. Snob, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with it. With what Jeff said. But nobody felt sorry for Reefa, not even a little bit. Like
not a little bit.
Wow, you guys are so mean.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the key thing about this is, as we've discussed, is how Jakar operates, and him being the leader, basically the leader of the Narn, the only Kari that is still left alive. He's the top guy, and he needs to step back. And I mean, if I was in his place and I was going to do this operation, I knew what was going to happen. I mean, I would be picking the Narns that would come with me would be the Narns who had lost the most family, the ones who are the most angry about what the Centauri have done, and so they'd be so highly motivated to carry out this operation, and they would maybe even be bound to me more loyally for me giving them this opportunity later if you were Jakar. So I mean, these are probably going to be the most bloodthirsty Narns out there, the ones most hurt by the Centauri. That would be the obvious thing to do. Yeah, I guess there's not. I think that's about it. There's nothing else.
And we don't know that they didn't, for that matter. He may very well have handpicked the people.
Oh yeah, I'm saying that's probably what he would do. It's not really important to the story right now.
No,
but him stepping back is exactly what he had to do. And if he got involved, I would be like, wait a second, no, he needs to step back. He needs to give the troops the chance to get their anger out and stuff. He can't take it for himself. This is the time where you step back and let them, do it.
One thing I'm reading the wiki, the Narn who meets up with Jakar is played by Wayne Alexander. He played Sebastian in Comes the Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, yeah,
and we'll be playing.
So yes, he will play many other roles, but that's one of my favorite season 2 episodes.
Yeah, is this the first? Sorry, is this the first time we see the non-homeworld as well after the destruction? Because I thought that was a nice scene setting.
I think we've seen images of it. But
you're
actually on the ground here, and you're seeing the devastation, the after effects of being
and Jakar is clearly shocked by seeing it, firsthand. Also,
because they're basically
with the dust.
Yeah, they're basically
the wind blows all the time.
They're in the middle of a nuclear winter.
Yes.
A partial type of for sure. Welcome, hey Keith Studley. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Welcome. Like and subscribe. We appreciate it if you can.
Okay, I'll be brief. My thoughts on this: the fact that it was done with music over it was brilliant, and I thought Rifa, his panicked running and the way that everyone else. I mean, again, he's fleeing for his life, and the rest of them, they didn't give chase. They were just like, they were very calm about it at the beginning until. Boom, the end. And then, you guys, Snob was joking about it, doesn't anybody feel bad for Rifa? I kind of do, in the sense, not because Rifa doesn't deserve it, but it's like, just imagine being torn apart, by, literally being beaten to death, right? They didn't shoot him, right? They beat him to death and tore his head off, or what's implied that will happen, at least. So the visceral nature of it really came through beautifully. Almost a perfect scene. It was fantastic. So
they can't show that on network television, but it reminds me of the original Handmaid's Tale movie from the 80s. Where they have a man, he's really a rebel, but they say that he raped somebody and the baby died and all this stuff, and the women literally rip him apart, and they're seen with blood on their hands, pieces of hair in their hand, walking around. That's how it would have been, visceral like that, basically being torn limb from limb by people, and that would be pretty horrific, I would think.
I would like to note that your admission of having seen that movie will never be forgotten.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
I'm writing it down now.
It's a good movie, and we watched it in school because we studied the book.
And the one thing that you pointed out, Cam, about the music and the irony of the music playing at the same time as we're seeing, and we'll get to that here in a minute. That whole B plot, I guess it is, but it jumping back and forth between the two, and it's funny that it was so fitting in both ways.
And the music. Well, we can talk about that, but very appropriate for it matched.
Yeah. And this is the second episode in a row, right? Where we've had.
What do you mean? Being in a rocky dungeon and having no place to hide?
No, you can look it up on your. But what the song is about.
Yeah.
and well, very simply, you're not going to escape your ultimate judgment.
Right.
You know,
you can hide under a rock, but the rock will cry out that you're there to
It's
face
a verse.
God's judgment. Yeah.
It's a verse from Revelations where it says, "The rock will cry out, here is the sinner."
Yeah. So beautiful. Okay, we are getting a little late because we although time well spent on this fantastic storyline.
I was going to say this is the more
especially that plot. You know,
this is the bigger plot.
Before we move on from Jakar and Londo, can I just mention something about Jakar in this episode right at the start, where he's talking about sending bodyguards with the telepaths, and he mentions about I think it was Ivanova who said, was it Ivanova or Garibaldi? Trying to think who it was Ivanova, wasn't it?
He was talking to Ivanova at the
time. Wouldn't the bodyguards be risking themselves? And he goes, they risk to sacrifice themselves so that we may serve ourselves, that kind of, and it was all back to that risk, the sacrifice of the non-people, which I think a couple of episodes ago, didn't we have that conversation where the captain didn't want to risk himself and Jakar didn't want to call him in? And now all of a sudden, Jakar's back to form. This is the Jakar I remember, which is we've got a great cause. And even if it results in our deaths, we are honorable people and we will do what is necessary.
Do you think he was inspired by Sheridan?
It could have been. It could have been as a result of all of that, refocused him on what truly mattered.
And so remember, I think refers. Sorry.
Yeah. I was about to say it's a small thing, but it adds to the lore, it adds to the history, it adds to your feeling of the episode that there's more happening than just what you're seeing.
His resolve is back, I think.
I think it also refers to the bigger sacrifice that Delin talks about, sacrificing the Narn people as a whole to the shadows. Maybe he's starting to realize a little bit about that, and maybe he'll, in the future, he might forgive Delin a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I think we could do this all probably in one basket, and we'll go around again. But just as a brief reminder, we've got all tied in here is Sheridan kind of overworking himself in regards to the war plans and trying to figure out what the shadows are doing, and then Delenn trying to kind of connect with him and keep him balanced, and tied in with that is his brother Theo and his visitors. He's got a Baptist minister, a rabbi, and a Buddhist, and I think the other guy was Hindu,
Muslim cleric.
Was it a Muslim?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, so they come in, and most of them don't really say anything. You get a little bit from the rabbi and the Baptist minister at the dinner that Delenn drags Sheridan to.
Well, any sci-fi nerd worth their salt would recognize the rabbi,
Eric Avari.
Yeah, honorable. We were talking about the other day, Dean, SG1, honorable father.
Yeah.
I recently saw him play in The Chosen. He played. It was this big scene. John 3:16 scene.
Yeah, Nicodemus.
Nicodemus.
Yeah, he's great in that.
Great actor.
Yeah, he's been in a ton. He's one of these guys you've seen in a ton of stuff, and very very talented actor. So we do see that they have this. Basically they did a little bit of spying about the resistance on Earth, which Sheridan was talking about. And then there's the scene that Snob talked about where the minister and kind of comes. I guess he just wanders into Sheridan's office.
It is his office again. This lack of security on board the station was
that his office, or was that like
it was his office? It was his office.
He's just walking around in the middle of the night.
You see all his awards right there by the door on the shelf where he keeps them.
Yeah,
he's just sitting there in the dark doing work, drinking tea.
That was weird.
It
was weird that he had his door open too, right? Because he just walked.
And there's no door. Hey, that's another security issue. There's no door to his office.
Yeah, because the whole area is secure. No unauthorized personnel should be in that area.
Because they're so anal retentive about like people being in the ambassador's area. Like you can't go in. Why would they not be the same way with the command area.
It's a running thing with this show. It's the slight inconsistency of who's allowed on board these restricted areas like CNC and who isn't, and it depends on the plot.
It's like there's a couple of times Jakar just walks into CNC. I know he's an ambassador, but I'm like, dude, how did you get
reporters
in there?
and
There should be a key code on the door or biometrics or something on that door,
or a guard at least. Jeez.
Yeah. So, Brother Theo, he has this kind of acrimonious, jokey, conversation going on. But what? Okay, so we'll just go around. We'll start with Dean. This whole, Delenn and Sheridan, the religious figures, and what they're talking about with the one, I guess, with Sheridan. And what do you think about this whole B plot?
I think first of all, it's great to have reoccurring characters in the season, and Brother Theo, reappearing again in an episode. It's nice when we get this level of continuity. From the I think it was in the first or second episode, it might have been onward. I think the relationship they've only got a short amount of time to build this relationship, and I think it worked really well with the Baptist minister. I love the way the Baptist minister came across. I think it was Will, who was it? Will Dexter was the name of the minister. And I think it, having been quite religious myself, baptized as a Baptist, it works really well. And I think he reminds me of some of the pastors.
I saw him much more as a Southern Baptist.
He is definitely.
He is a Southern Baptist.
Yeah, he's definitely a Southern Baptist. From I loved him.
And I think the relationship building's great, and the fact that these ministers are all smuggling information. They've been gathering recordings and stuff to give over to Sheridan. Mm-hmm. They took a big leap of faith doing this, because as Sheridan said, well, what if the rumors about us were true? It was like, well, we couldn't sit there doing nothing. There was a word he said, which was, what was it? I'm just trying to find my notes, but it was all about being too fearful to do anything. I'd rather do something and it be wrong than be too fearful,
too scared
to do anything. Yeah. And I think that's an absolute.
That was a powerful.
So many people get too scared of making the wrong decision, and sometimes making a decision is the right decision. And I thought that was fantastic. So this whole scene, the various scenes, the reminder that when he was talking to Sheridan, that there are always, sharing your problems with someone else can make a huge difference. And that person, you're not burdening that person, but sometimes talking to them, bringing them in. And it was that reminder that we're built to have a partner. We're built to have someone we share our lives with. And I thought all of that, very strong family message running through this from JMS. It's with everything, with all the politicking going on in the background, these scenes were actually quite nice. They take you out of that intense politicking, spycrafty kind of part of the episode, and it's more almost of a family, wholesome part. It's like two sides of a coin. One side being seedy and filled with spycraft, and the other side being quite fulfilling and wholesome. And I think it's really good.
Outpost Nerd, what do you think?
I always like how JMS it does not shy away from religion, and how religion has kind of evolved in a world where we're among the stars. You never saw that in other shows, in any other. I'm going to save my reference for later. But the thing I did not like about this is when Reverend William tried to be nice to Theo, and Theo kept the hostile joking going. I'm like, Theo, take the compliment, dude. He said you're doing good.
Yeah, but that's their relationship. I immediately assumed they had this long-running relationship where this was back and forth, and they've been doing this for decades.
But there's a time and place for it. And I like how he used his Bible to smuggle the stuff in, because that's kind of old school spycraft.
Yeah.
It's like the old stuff still works even 300 years later.
Yeah.
One thing I like.
Sorry, can I just jump in for a second? My YouTube spies are saying that there's a little bit of problems. YouTube's having problems all over, and there might be some buffering and that sort of thing. So just everybody, if you can have patience with us, it's not on our end. It appears to be all over YouTube. So there's not much we can do about it, but hopefully it'll sort itself out. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I liked how we get to see another kind of worship service. And we've seen the Catholic with Brother Theo. Now we're seeing that rockin' Southern Baptist that I grew up with.
Yeah.
During that, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, talking about the worship scene and how I loved seeing Lanier in the middle of it.
Yes.
So confused. And he's trying to sing. But I also love the fact that he's even there. That he's there wanting to experience, because we've seen a history. He has a history of wanting to experience other cultures. Garibaldi, his motorcycle.
Right.
He's always wanting to learn about other stuff, and he's just confused. He looks around, and I don't know the words. Yay, I don't know the words. But my obligatory Star Trek reference is this: the singer, her name was Marva Hicks. She played Tuvok's wife in Voyager.
Really?
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
And she, a beautiful voice, amazing, powerful voice.
She did, yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Mm.
And these about, I just had it. Why did I close it? It's about from Revelation 6:15 through 17. The kings of the earth, the princes and generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both save and free, hid in caves among the rocks of the mountains. They called to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of God. For the great day of their wrath has come. Who can withstand it? So it fits so well with this scene where, like, they're trying, the truth comes out, or quote unquote, the truth comes out in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, the truth is subjective and that kind of thing, but they were separated, but the two plots just flowed perfectly together in the end.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing we can take away from this: Minbari do not have any rhythm.
Yes.
Well, at least Lanier does not.
Trying to.
What are you saying, that the Minbari are the white people of the galaxy?
Yes.
Well,
white people don't speak for you.
If the shoe fits.
All right, Jeff.
Okay, so I think that we learned some valuable information early on in the episode. Obviously, you'd mentioned, I think Snob mentioned Outpost smuggling the data crystals in the Bible. But one of the other things is that they did learn that the Resistance is still alive, despite the propaganda. And when they ask, what are they saying about us back on Earth? The Babylon 5 are renegades, pirates, and traitors to that are willing to get in, basically get in bed with the alien races to subvert the Earthdom and the human government and stuff like that. So that was kind of an interesting update of more info dump, I guess, a little bit, but I thought that was particularly interesting. So they are getting information, and not just information from that they've been able to assess from Earthdom to be able to smuggle that in, but also some of the information from the Resistance that they've been able to gather as well. So that's valuable information that Sheridan and they'll be able to utilize to perhaps locate who their allies are, or who their potential allies are anyways. So
one thing I want to point out too, you're talking about the data crystals, just how much more these men of God are. They're not just ministers and priests, they're scientists, they're computer programmers. Just think of the technical skill it took for them to hack this information from Earth Dome, from the Russian consortium, from the West. Each one of these guys got worldwide information and put them on these crystals without being noticed. Just think how impressive that was.
Well, and I don't think it was those individuals per se. I think it was people in their network.
Yeah, but still, like Brother Theo's entire group, they're computer programmers. They do all this stuff.
Yeah,
and it just impressed me. There's so much more than just.
They're more than their religion. They have skills, real life skills and stuff, but religion is part of their existence in the real world, rather than it being the whole of their existence.
And that's true. That's true today. You know, as much, you know, for a lot of people, that's something very near and dear to them. You know, so I did think it was kind of funny that it's almost like the whole joke about a priest, a rabbi, and a to walk into a bar.
Careful.
Yeah. So you know, and it's like, well, you know, they walk onto a space station. Add in a Buddhist. I think there was a Buddhist monk, wasn't there, or
Muslim cleric and a Buddhist monk.
Yeah. So you know, they're covering all the major religions basically, and it's funny that they're all working together. You know, they're cooperating because they see the oppression and that is going on in Earthdom, and they are, you know, they felt compelled to be able to do something.
Well, Brother Williams' entire sermon was, "Don't let fear be the reason that they separate us." That was the entire sermon.
Yeah, Snob.
Yeah, you guys covered it pretty well. I'm gonna just speak to the overall the science fiction aspects of it. I mean, it's very refreshing to see, Babylon 5, especially since Straczynski is apparently an atheist. For him to, bring in religion and address it and have it as such a, an important element within his various storylines, on Babylon 5, because most of the time, science fiction makes the assumption that, hey, religion is this sort of backward thing that we, believed about when we thought the sun, was carried across the sky with a chariot and all this stuff. And it's something that we would grow out of. And you see that in things like Star Trek and the vast majority of science fiction out there. And the ones that you do see religion in science fiction are the ones where, as a sort of an edge case where, we go to this planet and they got some weird, wacky religion that's obviously weird and wacky. Or you see it as something like in, let's say, Warhammer 40K, where this religion has been perverted into something and it basically runs the whole universe, that kind of thing. So very seldom do we have this. Most of the time it's ignored, but very seldom do we have religion, interwoven into the storyline like this. So, I commend him for doing that. And it's very rare to see that. And I really like that aspect of them doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, I think you're right. Atheists aren't famous for portraying religion positively, and Straczynski really does. I think overall, so it is nice to see. I just wanted someone else commented on it. The one thing I really liked with the Reverend with Sheridan is number one, his kind of very quiet persistence. When Sheridan's like, yeah, okay, and he's like, oh yeah, just one more thing. But the part that I really liked was when he was talking about, I think his wife before she was his wife.
Yeah.
And it's like, she came over to clean his house or whatever. And he's like, why? And the part she said is because when I clean my house, all I do is clean the house. When I clean your house, I'm helping you. Yeah. And it's like, that's an amazing point in that, there's very few times when a TV show kind of makes me go, and that was really a good one. It was like, cause just personally having someone take a burden off of me of any kind, that's the best thing anyone can do for me. You know what I'm saying? And of course we're seeing Sheridan here with a massive burden, and to prompting him.
He's got the weight of the universe on him. Really.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And prompting him to accept that help that's being offered when he thinks that it's like, well, I don't want to burden someone else. It's like, no, you're greater than the sum of your parts, right? And having that mutual help and partner, as you mentioned, is a great lesson. So I really enjoyed that.
I mean, he said, after God created man, he created Eve. And, and then of course, Sheridan's like, yeah, Dylan's been through a lot, he's trying to, and I don't want to burden her with it, and, so on and so forth. It's just, and it's like, no, I think they were pointing out this whole, you're trying to take on everything by yourself. And Sheridan has this, this thought of, I've got all this, like I said, the weight of the universe, the fate of the universe, even on his shoulders. And it's like, no, you're not burdening them. Let them help you. Talk to them, and communicate. And it's kind of the little things. Let them, because Delen's been trying. And we see her at some point where she literally grabs him by the arm, because he's like, well, that's what I do if I were, that's what I would do in that situation. And she's like, okay, that's it. Bam.
She's horrified. Yeah.
She's like,
yeah, and I love that.
We're going now.
She's dragging him out of the war room, and he's just trying to make excuse after excuse, and her only response is, yes, John, of course, John. The patronizing wife kind of thing.
Yes.
But
that's not patronizing. That it's a term of endearment. Yes, dear. Is the term used that makes marriages strong, because no matter what you're doing, your partner knows best, and you're too stubborn to acknowledge it. But you can at least manage a yes, dear, as they drag you away from that situation.
If Sheridan has one weakness, one character flaw, it's he's so bad at portraying his feelings to people. Yes. He's so he's still kind of on the fence about the Delenn relationship. Yes. And you see the Reverend kind of like, dude, I can tell everyone sees it but you. Open your eyes, let her in. And
we see that finally come to fruition
at the end of the episode. And I loved it that he spends weeks trying to figure it out, but the moment he lets someone else in, he sees the solution. Yeah. They both see the solution.
Well, and she, when he finally relents, and they have an opportunity, then at some point we cut to a scene. Now this is all, of course, while the stuff with Londo and Jakar are that going on, that we're cutting back and forth. But it was done well. The cutting was done well. Sometimes, early on in the season 1, there was a lot of poor cutting. But he's like, where are we going? Where are you taking us? And she says, I'm going to show you something. And, and they come out of hyperspace, and then suddenly now there's dozens and dozens of the same class ship that their ship is, and so it's we have a fighting chance, and you need to know that there is a fighting chance now.
There was a huge reveal.
It was a tremendous reveal, because how many ships were on the screen? Does anybody know?
I'm guessing count. Like 50. 30 is my 50? Guess.
Yeah.
A lot.
They've been working nonstop to do this. So which we had talked about the strife that was had with is it Nehruun? Previously. And he finally capitulated, and recognized, that she is Ranger 1, right? That she is, the Zentil, is that what it is, or something like that?
Intilza.
Yeah. And Intilza. At any rate, and it makes you wonder, maybe he is now might be having pulling some strings on the Minbari side too. Yeah, we need to get this. We need to be prepared for this.
Well, that whole worker cast has got something to do, right?
Oh yeah.
Do y'all think this might be the first time Sheridan's like, oh my God, we have a chance?
Well, not the first time. Not the first time, because the first time was the telepaths. We have a weapon. With it, you know.
But now they have a delivery system.
Now we have a delivery system. Yes, you're absolutely right, man. You know, now we have a way to bring those weapons to the battle. You know.
Yeah, I think this is a great scene because at the beginning of the season, we're approaching the end, but at the beginning of the season, the White Star is introduced, and we see what a fantastic vessel it is, just how unique it is for its class and how powerful. And now, towards the end of the season, the war's ramping up. Things are getting really serious. We now see that Sheridan has a fleet of these at his disposal, and that is incredible. Yeah. You've got two moments in this episode. One, the Reefer meeting Justice, which lifts you up, and then this lifts you up again at the end. It's a fantastic, uplifting episode. You feel really good at the end.
Delenn even says to John, they have, as the humans would say, a fighting chance.
Yeah.
So this is I think this is one of the moments where they're like, oh my God, we might get through this.
Yeah. And it's been building throughout the whole season. But in this episode, even, you know, it starts off and Sheridan is she calls him cranky, and then she
crotchety.
says she looked up cranky and it said crotchety, and then she looked up crotchety and it said
so sorry, cranky led to grouchy led to crotchety.
Right. And I'm like, I literally said to Jeanette, because we actually watched this together tonight earlier, and I said, what is Dylan mistaking a thesaurus for a dictionary?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the funniest part about this, she didn't believe crotchety was a word, real word. She's like, I can't believe this is a real word.
I live up to that crotchety thing.
I love that line.
She makes a good point too. She's like, no wonder your language is so hard. No word means what it means. You got to know one.
You have multiple words,
and that's the problem. A lot of people who said they learn English have that same problem. Like one word can mean 5 or 6 different things, and they have to learn what the context is.
Sure.
Well, there was one thing that she said. I think. Maybe it was once when she revealed, and he sees all of them, and she says your face has broken the language barrier or something like that, and it was kind of
was when that was during the crotchety thing, because Sheridan, Sheridan, the entire time she's talking, he's laser focused on the board still. And then when she says crotchety, he just turns and looks at her like, oh, and she's like, oh, your face just broke the language barrier.
Yeah. I thought that was very funny. And Delenn tells a joke.
Yes.
Did you catch the joke? Does anybody have the quote for it? Because it was kind of funny. It was something about the hairs on the back of my neck. You know, the hairs on the back of your neck makes the hairs on your back of your neck raise. And she says, well, that explains Minbari.
Yes, the Centauri.
The Centauri, yeah, that's it.
Yes. I see her becoming more and more human as we go on. You know?
Yes.
And I like it.
Yeah. I will mention one. I mean, I think you guys made great points there. I don't really have too much to add on this part. However, I will say, though, I'm a little bit, this storyline, I'm not... I'm not against the storyline of Delenn and Sheridan falling in love and all that stuff, but I do feel that in the past it's been a little bit quick. And maybe it's because we had to switch Sinclair and Sheridan, but I would have, their relationship seems to grow a little too fast, and we don't see as much in there. I mean, it could be just a problem with the storyline, and you've only got so much.
Could be the fact that they're facing
an
intergalactic war.
It's happened over the course of almost 2 full seasons.
Yeah, but I haven't seen enough to, they just like every once in a while they kind of just. I have to make the assumption that there's more going on below the, behind the scenes.
I'll split the difference though. I will split the difference because I agree with Snob early on, especially. It was very rushed. It was very forced, and maybe it was because of the lead role changing and having to rewrite and stuff like that. In the past season or so, it has been slowed down in more of a gentle build, which is much more, satisfying. I think it's more believable.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with this episode and what happens in it, but I just think that where Delenn is in this, and we've seen a little bit of it in the season, but it just she seemed to get there too fast in my view.
In season 2.
Why don't? Can we cover that in final thoughts? If anyone has any comments on that,
sure. I mean,
really quick.
Do you want to talk about Jeanette's favorite part?
Sure.
I mean, that's the very end, right? The last basic scene is, when finally all you shippers out there actually get what you've all been asking for this 3 seasons, whatever. Since Sheridan was introduced, you actually get a kiss between Sheridan and Delenn, and that tells you something about their relationship, is that they're just now getting to that point. So that's what I mean by.
Well, make up your mind, guys. Is it too slow or too fast?
It started off too fast.
Dean, bring some reason to this.
I think it's fast or slow. I think it's it's progressing naturally. They're in the middle of a galactic war that they might not survive. Yeah. So, and I remember how he reacted when he first met her. And she takes off that hood, and you see you see Mia Furlan. You don't see Delenn, and he's just like, and I love, they have scenes every other episode where they flirt. Like one of my favorite scenes is when Sheridan's going to get his newspaper, and and Delenn walks up, and he's like, they go on about this thing like. We're only told on Minbar what we need to know, and then computer chimes in. Would you like I on Minbar added to your? It's this funny little scene. They have great scenes together. I think it's perfect.
I think that may have been where the shift into now it's more believable, their growing relationship. Because like I said, early on, Stubbs right. Early on, I got this. I'm like, are they forcing this relationship? It's felt very awkward and forced, and maybe that's just how. I don't know.
I found the relationship seemed to form quite naturally over the 2 seasons, and you have moments here and there. It starts with a building of trust between the Minbari and the humans, sharing rituals and stuff like that. But there was that spark, that love at first sight. And I think it happened to both of them. And I've been in a relationship like that with my wife. The moment we met each other, we fell in love immediately. And things move at a pace. And, you can't control it. And you use any excuse to spend time with each other. So it's like, I'd like you to share some Minbari food because I want to spend time with you, not that I want to share my ritual with you. And you've got all of this all the way through. And, whilst it was Delenn's first kiss, it was Sheridan's second kiss with Delenn because he went into the future and had a sneaky kiss then. But it's the first time the two of them are together and they're showing their affection for each other. And it's that kind of, the barriers are now coming down and they're accepting what fate has led them to.
And you got to remember too that Sheridan was, when he came to the station, he was mourning his wife still.
Yes,
because there's that episode where his sister comes and visits, and they have that big heartfelt conversation at dinner, where he's like, "Why is it still when I see something on the news, I still think, oh, she'll like that. I should call her." So I think it was probably midway through the second season where he got to a place he could open up to her again, open up to love again.
But Delenn has had that flash forward as well, and she knows something is.
She didn't have that flash forward. That was Sheridan.
No, she had a flash forward.
Okay, but that's not the same thing. That's not.
No.
But Dean brings up an excellent point that whatever barrier there was kind of broken because he saw the future, right? So, and I know that Snob is very sensitive, and I want to be very gentle with this, but I don't know that your view on this might be the dumbest thing that you've ever said. I'm joking. It's the second dumbest thing. But the point is, no, I
assure you I've said many more dumber things.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know
dumb stuff.
Top 10?
I honestly don't know what you're talking about because it's literally, this is one of the slowest developments of a relationship in sci-fi, 2 full years essentially, minus a couple episodes, and they've had steady points here and there. And this, if anything, this is wildly slow. Think about, people under high pressure things, they often fall into, some kind of encounter, right? This has been the most methodical, plotting almost development of a relationship. I don't think it's at all bad though. I think they had all these little points, what were there, a dozen of them probably in these 2 years where they've had these various encounters, dinner, so on and so forth. This is completely credible in my opinion.
Snob, we're outnumbered. Where's Jason when we need him? Because he was on our side.
All right.
If you don't see this, I don't. How are you missing this?
You forget the scene where he's trying to sleep and she brings up the water on. I mean, there's so many of these touching scenes where they connect and it just builds on that relationship. I love the fact it wasn't a will they, won't they. It's they will, but at what point will they? Yeah.
And remember, and remember too, in season 2 when they went on the date. And she wore that amazing, beautiful dress. And I remember that everyone walks in, everyone's used to seeing her in her robes. And it's this slicky dress with all the cleavage. And everyone just stops and stares at her. And Sheridan's jaw hits the floor. And it's one of my favorite moments.
I guess you could say early on that it might have been a little bit of Delenn, like, well, I'm human. I got to figure out this human thing, but very little of that. I think it very much became about him pretty early, and you
coming to the acceptance.
No, I'm saying that their connection. And Outpost Nerd, you mentioned the scene with the newspaper recycling thing. It was like, okay, this is going somewhere. I mean, right back. I mean, that was probably the 3rd episode of season 2 or something like that. I mean, that was it was very early. Okay, Snob, go ahead and just apologize to everybody for your dumb comments.
I will never. I call upon everyone in the chat to go into the comments after the show and tell Cam while he's wrong and support me. And I will also want to say that Jeff, just you don't need to hide your you don't need to hide behind your wife for your how much you like the kissing scene at the very end.
My wife hit me over
like
the head with a frying pan because I was so damn naive. I was like, no, there's no way that she likes me. Oh, we could tell you stories.
You know what? I do not like shipping in shows generally, and I have no problem with this one at all.
It felt, and like I said, it was an early on where it felt kind of shoehorned, but I think later on it progressed properly, and I think, the
Marquette disaster. Yeah.
Okay, Snob, you ready to go to final thoughts?
Yeah. Let's go to final thoughts. Everyone, I'll start. Jeff, Dean, Outpost, and then Cam, myself. Go ahead.
Go on, Jeff.
You
all start. Right. So overall, I really loved this episode. I thought it was great. The intrigue, the espionage, the triple crossing. Forget double crossing. He's triple crossing. He triple crossed the audience. We didn't know what was going on. We assumed one way, and he went the other way. He had some whole ulterior motive, and then there was an ulterior motive, and it was excellent. And as we alluded to, talked quite a bit about it actually. I think each of us has our own individual kind of perspective on how this may have come about, but they all work. And how rare is that something could be written like that has so many potential ways that all the paths lead to this ultimate fruition. And with Rifa getting his just desserts, and even the B plot was not a pointless, let's just throw it in there for no apparent reason. There was a brief
solid B plot, right? What B
right
plot should be.
Yeah, and there was a mention of the doctor. He's still on walkabout. We'll just pass it on. But overall,
most of the cats, like him, Garibaldi, and what's the other security guy's name?
Zach.
Yeah. They're in it for just less than a few minutes each, or a few moments. You see Garibaldi maybe twice in this episode.
Yeah, and really, everybody kind of has a moment in this too, and it's kind of, even if it's brief. I don't know if they filmed.
I think Lanier literally had one shot in the church, right?
Yeah, Lanier was in the church, and it was like, oh look, Lanier's there too. Everybody made it. How many episodes do we get where we get to see just about everybody? So it's very rare. I am going to give this. It is that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The review. I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Ooh, that's high from you.
Yeah, eight and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. To add to what Jeff, I agree with everything Jeff said, and I think this is it's an episode of two halves. You've got the spycraft and intense darkness of the one side. You've got the wholesomeness of a relationship buildings, family on the other side, and I think the way the two entwine with each other is simply fantastic. Writing is brilliant in this episode. The characters are true to form. And I think, this is one of those episodes I love watching, and I just love it because the acting's great to watch. There's the story, the way it unfolds, and that feeling at the end. Two peaks at the end. Rifa meeting Justice and realizing that the White Star is not a lone vessel and that there is a fleet of them waiting to be launched. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible episode. I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. It's up there as one of my favorites.
Okay, Outpost.
I loved it how it was able, like Dean said, you had two different stories that at first didn't feel very connected, but then they just at the end weaved perfectly together. It was, to me, this episode overall was kind of like about espionage, and like it was like the dark, gritty side of it, but then you had with Brother Theo and Reverend William the others into the spectrum. I think it showed how sometimes like a burden can be resolved if you just let someone in. And I think that's a lesson shared and I think learned, and I think it's going to take to heart. Overall, I loved Rifa's ending. I loved it. It is one of my favorite endings for a villain in anything I've ever seen. The fear in his face, the satisfaction in Londo, for Londo, and the Narn. You've seen the Narn get beat up over and over again over these 3 seasons, and to finally see them get a small victory was so satisfying. I would give this episode, it's one of my favorites, so I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Wow.
All right.
You guys are, see, and I was going to give it a 9 originally, and Jeanette's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, 8.5. But
did you want to revisit your score there, Jeff?
No changes.
No changes. No takebacks.
Cam.
Takebacks.
Okay. As I kind of interjected, I think this is a B plot that was done right, and maybe one of the best mergings of the two things. It didn't. I think, yeah, it really did come together beautifully at the end. better than most any other episode I can think of. And you know, I usually harp on the storyline stuff. It's like these are the great storyline, you know, meaning major storyline. There wasn't fluff in this episode, you know, or you know, ancillary stories going on. This was all very solid. And of course, it's a Londo, you know, the Londo stuff. You know, we're talking about it, and I'm like, oh, this Londo stuff's great, and then the other stuff. But as we were talking about the B storyline, I'm like, wow, this is really good too. It's just that the Londo stuff is so great. So I think I'm gonna go with a 9. Although I'm hard for wow.
Oh, you're gonna get yelled at by you know, Madman.
I'm hard pressed to say though why I shouldn't be rating it higher. I think the Londo storyline is a 9.5 easy.
Yes.
And I really can't find flaws in the other one. So, but I'm going to stick with a 9 though. Very enjoyable episode. And I can't get enough of the Londo. So love it.
Yeah.
All right. I think everyone made good points except for Cam in the whole the Lynn Sheridan thing about how I was wrong about that. That was
facts hurt your feelings.
That everybody's that you're wrong about. But other than that, everyone made great points. I mean, I agree with what everybody said except for that part. And I mean, you're right. It's a great comes together really well. I was thinking, 8.5. But I'm wondering if I should push that up to a 9 because it is very good and there's very tough to find anything wrong with it except for, the romance thing is a little bit too fast. But of course, we disagree on that. But I'm going to go. Let me settle on an 8.5 just to give Jeff some cover. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You know what?
It is a very good episode, and I'm just wondering: is it the best? Definitely one of the best 3 episodes we've seen so far, for sure. I'm thinking, first or second, but I have to go back and look at some of the other ones that we were looking at.
It's number 5 for me.
Number 5 for you?
This season. Yeah.
Oh, this season. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was saying there's a couple. I think I maybe put it at 3 for me this season so far. Anyway, I mean, we'll see what. There's still a 2 episodes left, but it's very, very well done. Hard to find flaws for sure.
You know what? I'm sorry to do this so late. There was just one bit, and it's really not necessary to this episode, but Verini was coming here, and they had mention of him, the Centauri recognizing Babylon 5, and it brought up the whole idea of that they haven't really dealt with how these governments that have relationship with Earth are dealing with the fact that Earth is now split into these different pieces. I mean, the Minbari have, put force behind Babylon 5, and so have many of the non-aligned worlds. And it's like, how is that affecting their relationship with Earth? And so it really wasn't dealt with in this episode, nor should it have been necessarily, but it was mentioned. So that's something we probably, might want to discuss on a future episode.
Yeah.
All right, but not now because we're trying to end the show, Cam.
Right.
Jeez, you're the one telling me end the show. Why are you taking so long? And then now you can't.
Well, your 20-minute detour. I figured it was all up in the air.
You're trying to distract us. All right. Okay. That's good. I'm still sticking with my 8.5.
Idiot.
I think 8.5 is a good score.
I think so too.
It's very hard for me to hit a 9.
Jeez.
Stick to your guns, Jeff. Don't let them. You don't need to defend your score. It's 8.5. That's what you gave it. Suck it up.
But Snap, you said this was your 3rd favorite of the season?
Well, I'm just trying to think. Like I have to go back and look. 2nd or 3rd favorite? I mean, it's a very good episode.
Have I given a 10 yet?
Oh, no, I haven't. But anyway,
okay.
All right. Let's go. Jeez.
You and I.
All right, let's finish the show. Damn it.
Okay, trivia.
Don't make me play the cat thing.
Yeah,
all right, trivia questions. Let's go. Really go over to trivia questions for next week. All right, the trivia questions are as follows. What is the countdown value at the beginning of the episode? Beginning of the episode, not the end. Which 2 Centauri arrive on Babylon 5 to talk to Londo? Who does Jakar go to rescue on Narn? How many imprisoned Narns did Londo say he was going to free? What is happening at the same time? People in the chapel are singing No Hiding Place. I think we might have covered the answers to all of these. watch the show. You should be able to get all the answers. All right, excellent. Okay, so next week on the show is going to be we're going to be talking about Shadow Dancing, another second last episode of the season. Wonder what's going to happen there. We're getting close.
Is it a good one? I hope it's
I don't
good.
know, but I'm assuming the Z- is countdown to the final episode, Zaha Doom. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're not going to
So
say
it's
what it is when it ends. Well, you didn't ask that.
Yeah, well, Z stands for Zaha Doom, I think, but we'll see.
I'm thinking it's Zaha Doom. Yeah, minus.
Yeah, we're thinking
whatever.
that's. I'm thinking that too, but we'll find out. All right, what do we got coming up? We'll start with Dean, Outpost, Jeff.
Okay. It's what have we got coming up? I think I'm appearing in a tavern somewhere on Sunday evening. Is it not? As a guest, as well as we got our Destiny's Dispatch. Yes, that's the one.
Oh yeah, you're one of my minions now.
I am one of your minions. Yes,
I'm happy
you
to
snapped
have
the
you.
whip, and I'm answering the call.
There's a reason. We'll get to that in a minute.
Otherwise, we're having very much an old school week this week. We had an interview go out on Tuesday on our YouTube channel, which is about a BX first edition, second edition module. And today, I say today, it's tomorrow for you lot, today for me, 4 p.m., we have an indie game spotlight going out, which is to look at the 1E conversion of Empire: The Undying Sun. So it's all go at the moment. Exciting stuff.
Oh, it was Peter's birthday last week.
All right.
We should interview. Make
All
sure
right,
we
go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, you're going to bring me up already?
Yeah, I said you next.
No, you said Outpost, then me.
No,
but
I
that's
said
okay. That's
Dean,
okay.
Jeff,
Here I am.
I see how it is. I see how it is.
All right. No, that's okay.
What, is everybody's pissed off about what order they go in? Jeez.
No, so I actually have. So I was getting ready to post that. So this Sunday, see now you got the just the generic graphic. You didn't even bring up the special graphic. Bring me back up and make me full screen. Bring me back up, Snob.
What is the special graphics? What I got?
I have graphics loaded. I knew you wouldn't load my new graphics.
Did you tell me to load them?
I posted them.
That doesn't
Just
mean
make
anything.
make me full screen. There we go.
That doesn't
All
mean
right.
anything. People.
There
post
we
lots of
go.
stuff.
This Sunday, we have Alphinius Goo and Camera Mandy from Gooey Cube. And on top of that, let's see here. We have we know who. I think he's pretty much confirmed. We're gonna have Luke Gygax on.
Very cool.
He sent me. He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do it." So everybody, cross your fingers. He wasn't able to make it last time. He had a family emergency, but we're hoping he's going to be there. And I have another special announcement. Sorry, Cam.
That wasn't Cam.
Oh, I have something to give away on the show this Sunday. So if anybody's interested in going to Central New York Con, I have a badge to give away. So
fine, I'll send you the $50 to get it. Gosh.
At any rate, so yeah, we're gonna have to have a little bit of a contest, and we're gonna randomly pick somebody.
Randomly quotes beside that, huh?
No, I have the random. Oh, come on.
Just a joke.
Any rate, so yeah, so that's going to be a fun episode. Hopefully Luke will be able to make it. And any rate, so that's what I've got.
All right,
Sunday 9 p.m.
Okay.
and we are going to be casting on Tennessee Tabletop Tavern, and we are still going to be simulcasting on Sci-Fi for Me TV, but I'll have an announcement on it.
Excuse me.
All right.
Ugh.
Outpost.
Friday, I think I'll be doing a Mortal Kombat, talking about Mortal Kombat, the movie coming out. Looking very forward to it. I enjoyed the first one. I think I'll be doing a stream about that. Carl Urban playing Johnny Cage. I'm really excited about it. I'm a big fan of his ever since I saw him in The Lord of the Rings. Love those movies. So look up for that probably sometime Friday. that's pretty much all I have. Got some real life stuff that might be changing the channel, might be improving, might be just changing the channel a little
You
bit.
showed your face.
Yeah, aren't I adorable? I tried to a little few minutes ago, and this damn restream
Your
wouldn't
camera
let
wasn't
me.
working. Oh, you have to. Yeah, you have to make sure you say. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah, you can fix that pretty quick.
I figured that would probably be a better chance of not getting struck as AI, but
Yeah.
that would
That's something we're running into. Yeah, so
right now I can't simulcast, or I'd be doing YouTube and Rumble. StreamYards is asshole like that.
so
that's pretty much.
All right.
Okay,
good. Q, are you there? All right.
Yes, I am.
You can do a little promo there.
Alrighty then. Of course, if you haven't caught today's video, Battlestar Galactica, the 2000 series, is returning to streaming, including free streaming. That video is out today. Tomorrow, we got the Legend of Aang leaker has been arrested about that. Friday, we're going to be talking about all the Godzilla movies from the Toho line has been remastered and going to be released in theaters in Japan. Hopefully we'll get it on our end. And Tuesday, I will be there live. Thank you to Snob for handling this week. We will be doing Invincible versus Batman the Animated Series, as the creator of Deadpool has probably started up a firestorm online.
Well, Madman, I'm glad the bail went through, so you were able to join us today.
Is somebody else going to be next to Johnny Smalley harvesting cabbages?
Oh, who knows? There's a whole list of people now that's gotten in trouble overseas.
Good. They all make us look bad.
All right. Cam, anything you got?
No.
All right. Next week on this show, we've got Shadow Dancing. Outpost Nerd is going to be back, and Madman's going to be with them, but Dean will not be here. Sorry, Dean.
Yes.
Dean gets
you draw the short straw, Dean.
But that's
okay.
It's a long straw. He doesn't have to be here.
Dean's got to go on my show Sunday.
To be fair, I think I got the better episode of the two.
Yes, he did.
Oh,
it was rock, paper, scissors on this one, and I lost.
All right, and this Sunday on the Top Lofty Lounge, Cam, I think we're going to be doing another digital circus. We got to try again. Maybe it'll work. We don't get too many people out for that one, but hey, try it out. The show is good. I know it really appeals to the younger kids, but hey, come watch us talk about it, and maybe we'll convert you.
Well, I just briefly on that, we would be talking about episode 3 and 4. I think would be the plan. 3, in my opinion, is the best episode. So if you want to try that,
it is definitely a good episode, and I think episode 4 is pretty good too. But
Jeff, movie tickets are still selling out.
Cover your dumb face, Jeff.
When you're, you should open your mind a little bit, expand your.
Expand your horizons, man.
That's right. Yes, expand your horizons. There you go. That's exactly it. All right. That's it, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate you coming to watch the show. I hope you enjoyed the show. I think we had a really good discussion this time.
It's a great episode.
Yeah, it was good. And
thanks,
hopefully we'll see you on Sunday and next Wednesday. And check out, of course, everybody. Check out all their channels, all our affiliates. Appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
Be hiding out in the chat.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Later.
Night.
Good evening. Ambassador Lando Molari here from Babylon 5. Please join me on the Babylon 5 retrospective on Science Fiction Snob, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Central. Yes? Have I ever told you you're very cute for a Mambari?